You know, it has taken 13 years and how many Congresses? 6 Congresses, and yet there has never been a vote in favor of the RH bill. And given the campaign of the Catholic Church, you really wonder how every member in the House would go with the vote, since the Speaker has said a vote should happen, because in the last Congress it never happened on the floor. So how do you size up now the thinking of your colleagues, where they will go with this issue?
We're not gonna go ahead. We're even pushing for the votation then. We want it as soon as possible. I don't even know why they've been trying to delay it.
And sorry, Sharon.
Yeah.
We're really pushing for it now. Let's go out and vote. Let's not waste time talking about the same thing over and over again. Correct.
So how do you deal with the same issues being raised over and over again? Because I think you still have many interpellators from those who are against the bill who will still go on the floor. And the question is, will this be completed before Christmas?
Well, that's really the big question, and this is going to be like suspense till the end. So even I cannot answer you, Freddie. Of course, I really hope and pray that our colleagues, well, you know what, it's good that we're having interpolations and deliberations and all that, because it's nice that they're interested and they're asking questions. And it gives us also a chance to open up and talk about the bill, so that everybody's aware, and when we do put it to a vote, everybody knows and is fully aware what we're voting for. So I think,
Well, this is the first time that we're confident, because this is also the first time that we have the president supporting the RH bill. So we're very hopeful, and we're confident about having the numbers.
When you talk about the women legislators, a very big number now. And if you look at the women, how divided or how united are you? I mean, who has the edge over the others?
That's a mystery. We won't know till the end, because there are a lot of those that are really silent and are choosing to remain quiet, but their vote will really count in the end. And Freddie, also, I would like to bring up the aspect of population and development, because that's so important. We already have to all we have to do is look at all the Southeast Asian countries around us. We're talking about Thailand, Korea, Indonesia, and now India and China. Well, China was what you call population control, which this is definitely not. The RH bill is not population control. China had the one-child policy, and they were strict about it. But let's probably take the situation of Thailand. In the 70s, Thailand and the Philippines had the same population. And I think at that point in time, we were both in the 40 million mark in the early 70s. And they embarked on their reproductive programs, reproductive healthcare programs. And now, today, they are 60 million. There are 60 million of them in Thailand, and we're close to 100 million in our population. And development-wise, they're way ahead of us already. So, if we just compare ourselves to all these countries, just goes to show you that there really is a direct correlation between population and development. So, I think this bill is going to help us also in the development part of our country.
If this is something that will be pushed and government gives full attention to it, would you say that this is also part of a strategy which any government may undertake, given the resources being poured to addressing the concerns of the poor? One particular program is the program, the Conditional Cash Transfer Program. So would you say that the dependence of our poor would be lessened if they learn to manage their families, and more resources are poured into education and even better health if the reproductive health care will pass? What do you think?
Well, basically, first and foremost, the RH bill is in congruence with the conditional cash transfer. It's giving more to those who have less. If the conditional cash transfer targets the poorest of our communities, then in the same wise, the RH bill also addresses that, because we're giving it more education, more information, and more access to responsible parenthood to those who are the poorest in the country. And as to your question, it will eventually, if we actually manage CCT, RH, and our education policies, our health policies correctly, then the RH will be a complementary to all this. It's not the end all and be all of all our problems, but it will complement, because if we can't even afford to have more classrooms now. So we can't even build or hire more nurses or hire more midwives. So if you put in RH bill, then it will complement, it will probably improve the performance of our government if we have RH bill.
Yeah, the RH bill is just one component. Of course, we have other, we have social development. The government needs to invest in social development as well as infrastructure. So if we put all these components together, then I think this is a good equation to progress, for our country to move forward and for progress to finally be achieved.
Kasi if the faster the population grows, then, and our economy is not growing as fast, we cannot afford to provide the public services that they truly deserve. Kasi if there's too many children, then where do you get money to build?
Yes, and Freddie, whatever small economic gains we have get eaten up immediately because there's not enough to go around. I mean, it's so simple, it's really common sense. If you have one piece of bread and divide it between Sharon and I, obviously she gets more and I get more, but the minute we divide it into 10, everybody gets less. So basically, I know a lot of people out there saying, oh, it's population control, but it's not. It's really a population measure, but for those who want to avail of it. So there is a choice. Nobody is being forced here.
Well, since you earlier, I think it's very important in this debate is how, resources are going to be spent. And I think a better way to look at it is the budget that comes on a year-to-year basis.
Yeah.
And if you look at the proposed budget for next year, even if you talk about 51% going for social services like it goes to education, health, and of course the conditional cash transfer program, resources will not always be enough to contain the problem of population management and poverty. So
Yes.
So you believe that if we are able to manage our population, more resources are devoted to more productive ventures for our people?
Definitely, I guess there will be more resources will go to managing it.
Especially nutrition.
Or like,
very example.
or even just like looking at it from the family point of view. If you have children that you properly plan, then you also plan in the same sense the economic side of it. Then you can give them the proper education, the proper nutrition. And if you have children that more than you have planned, then your economic capacity is actually limited. There will be less food for each child. The educational support will be less. In the same sense that our government also has to take care of its population. And it has to be able to manage its economy. But if it is unable to control the ballooning of the population, then where do we expect the balloon of the economic side? So, ano lang naman yan you have to balance it. Kaya, that's why, if we can afford economically to support our population, then that's fine. But if we cannot, then we have to find a way to be able to manage the social services properly.
Yeah, if China can do it, and they can impose a one-child policy, why not here in the Philippines? Why not include
No, I think that's too extreme.
Why not?
No. You know what? It shouldn't be. This is my personal belief. I don't think the church or the state has any right to control what goes on in a bedroom between a couple. Now, if a family would like to only have one child, then go, fine. Go for it. If they want to have 10 children, fine. Go for it too.
Even the poor.
Yeah, even the poor. It's up to them. But for those that want to learn about responsible parenthood, this is a way to empower them to be able to do it. See, so if the government helps them to help themselves, so I think this is a good bill because then they'll be allowed to plant their families and they'll be able to provide for their families. See, so
this is a problem with having with the poorer families because they are unaware or don't have access to family planning. So we're not. Well, what we're trying to say is that there are children that have been unplanned because they don't have family planning. They have to either their husbands force them, or they don't really have a choice, even though even if they have like some medical problems, then they still get pregnant. But if they have proper education and family planning, then they can save themselves in any complications from pregnancy, and also really plan how many children they want. If they want 10, then fine. If they want 2 children one child every 2 years, then that's.
What are the kind of health problems that women face really do they face, or they will contain if and when they go into
pregnancy?
Yeah.
Oh, plenty. Like there are some women that shouldn't even get pregnant because of health problems. Like let's say they suffer from very high blood pressure. Their doctor would tell them, okay, please, because they can, when you're pregnant, when you're carrying a child, that's when there's a tendency for your blood pressure to go up. So women that suffer from very high blood pressure should control their blood pressure first before even trying to have a child. But you see, in a poor place like Iloilo or probably Pangasinan, they don't even know that they're suffering from high blood, or if they do know that they are, there's no way for them to prevent getting pregnant. It's just going to happen.
Or they have problems with the heart, then that's also a big risk when they're about to deliver.
Or C-section.
Diabetes.
They need to have a C-section.
There's many complications that can happen, which actually a very well-trained midwife or health worker can detect if they're properly given the services at the right time.
But at the same time, look, how can a midwife, like in season, okay, there's 28 barangays. We have 10 midwives. Can you imagine how many women are giving birth at the same time in far-off barangays? These midwives have to go, climb mountains,
cross rivers
and fields. And what if that woman that's there has to have a C-section or has some kind of medical problem? I mean, there's no way to help them.
Okay, we'll continue with people. Congress in action after we pause for this reminder. So we'll be back.